Hey, it's Deanne here. Happy St. Patty's Day. I've got my green on for you. I hope you're having a good day. Today, I want to talk about the microbiome, and that is lots of different things. There's lots of different words for this. So it's microflora, microbiome, microbiota, intestinal bacteria, maybe even flora, gut bacteria. It all is the same thing. It just means the diversity of the bacteria that you have in your large intestine. That's where the majority of the bacteria actually are. And this bacteria is very, very important because they do so many things for us. So, one, they help us digest and absorb our food. Very, very important. They help us make specific vitamins like vitamin K, which is necessary for blood clotting, and vitamin B, which is hugely necessary for making energy. They also help protect the lining of the intestine. So, what I want you to think about when you think about the intestine is, you've got this tube, and the tube runs from the mouth all the way down to the other end. And we always think about the food moving from one end to the other. Okay. But what happens is food is broken down, and then very, very small particles like vitamins and minerals actually move through the walls of the intestine into the bloodstream. So we have to be very careful. We just don't want anything and everything to be able to move through the intestinal lining into the bloodstream, because that's going to cause us to get sick. So the great thing about this bacteria is it helps with the health of the intestinal wall. It helps prevent bad things from getting through to then make us sick. Things like viruses, fungus, bad bacteria. So, really, really important. Another thing it does is it breaks down our food. Okay. It breaks down our fiber that we eat, and it makes something called short chain fatty acids. And so these short chain fatty acids are very, very important because they are what help protect the lining of the intestine. What they do is they make mucus. You think of mucus, it's kind of that thick substance. So that is protective of the inside of the intestinal walls. Really, really important. So it improves that barrier function of the intestinal wall. So just not everything can get through. And it also improves or decreases our risk of colon cancer, because what happens is when that wall gets injured over and over and over again, that's when we can get colon cancer. So really, really important stuff. What do most people want to know about the bacteria? Like, how can we make it healthier? How can we make it diverse? We want it to be very, very diverse because different types of bacteria do different things. And what we found over the years through research is that certain diseases have certain levels, higher levels of specific bacteria, and then, of course, lower levels of others. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do on your own to improve the bacteria in your gut. So the bacteria, they need to eat, they need to live. So we have to feed them the foods that they want. So the best thing that you can do is eat what we call prebiotic foods. And that's like garlic and onions and leeks, dandelion greens, bananas, seaweed, lots and lots of really good nutritious foods. And the problem is the foods that a lot of the American, the standard American diet, the fried foods, the fast foods, a lot of sugar, those actually damage the bacteria. So they're not healthy for the bacteria. So if you're not eating enough of the good stuff and you're eating too much of the bad stuff, then you're not going to have the right bacteria that you need in your gut. Okay. Another thing that's really important are fermented foods. Fermented foods can increase the diversity. Like I said before, we want a lot of different bacteria. We want our lactobacillus and our bifido to be really, really high, but we also need a lot of other types of bacteria. So fermented foods. So almost all cultures have fermented foods because this was a way to basically keep foods healthy, but for a long period of time. We have miso. We have tempeh. We have things like kombucha and kefir. And then we also have sauerkraut. And then you can just find or do it yourself at home, fermented vegetables. You can definitely work on your own bacteria by eating these foods. Now, some of these foods can be problematic for certain people. Some people don't do well with garlic and onions, and I'll tell you why. Some people can actually have a problem called SIBO, or small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. What happens is something's going wrong in the digestive system, and there's a backup. So all the bacteria that's in the large intestine starts to back up into the small intestine. And what happens is then when you eat these really healthy foods for the bacteria in the small intestine are starting to eat them, and they're producing the gas and other things. And it can cause some burping. It can cause bloating and gas because it's further up the line than when it normally happens. So that can be a problem. And if you feel like that's an issue with you whenever you're taking probiotics or eating fermented foods or eating any of these prebiotic foods that I've talked about, then you really need to seek help because it's really difficult to do that on your own. And what I do when you come to me is that I normally do a stool test. And this is such an amazing diagnostic test that can tell us exactly what's going on in your gut. It talks about it or tells us about maldigestion. So where in the digestive system is something not going right? Where is the functioning a little off? It can tell us all about the microflora, the diversity of it. Which ones are maybe, not there at all, which ones may be too high, which ones may be too low. It can tell us if there's inflammation in the intestines. So if you've heard of diseases like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, those are inflammatory processes in the intestines, which can cause a lot of diarrhea, constipation, back and forth, a lot of pain. People often even have surgery for it. So that's inflammation. And then, of course, infection. So you can have some kind of bacterial infection. You can have parasites. You can have fungus, a candida you probably heard of. So you can have those different types of infections in the digestive system. And then it also looks at the metabolic function. So we talked about how these bacteria produce the SCFA, the small chain fatty acids. It measures that. It measures other metabolites that that really give us an idea of what's going on in the gut. So it's a great place to really figure out the best treatment plan. But we're pretty much always going to do the same thing. We're going to figure out where in the intestinal system or the digestive system where the problem is. We're going to figure out the damage that's been done. We have to repair that damage. Then we have to look at your nutrition and your lifestyle habits, because these two things are usually the triggers. There's triggers. The triggers can be anything, but it can be your thoughts and beliefs. It can be negativity, trauma. It can be that you have poor sleep. It can be that your nutrition is not up to par. So many different things. So we have to figure that out and then change those habits. Okay. We have to make sure you're eating enough nutritious foods that are feeding these good bacteria so we can have a strong immune system and a strong digestive system. So I hope that makes sense. I am definitely here to help you with any needs that you have. I absolutely love working with the digestive system. It's my passion. I've had issues throughout my life, and I really had to figure it all out on my own. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping others out. And it's just fascinating as well. So I hope this has answered some of your questions that you may have had over the years about microflora. If you have anything specific, you can always leave a question underneath this video. And otherwise, I will leave a link so you can always schedule a clarity call with me and we can talk about what it looks like for you to work with me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy St. Patty's Day.